No, father, I won't get married to someone I don't know. You can't just give me out like I'm a piece of rag, I argued. You wouldn't dare to do this if my mother was alive. I kept talking, not minding what they would do to me. Would you shut up your mouth before I shut it up with my hand? Uncle Udoka shouted. How dare you? Do you have plans to go against your father's decision? And if you like, don't prepare yourself. Before the next 5 market days, we will bundle you and take you there by force, Uncle Chima said, pointing his walking stick at me. Before I could protest, my stepmother and Amara came out, laughing and clapping their hands. I told you that this girl is very disrespectful and arrogant. Did you see the way she spoke to you and her father just now? That's how she is. She then turned to me and said that I have no choice but to go where I had been married, and that my days were finally coming to an end in the house. I would rather die than go with you to where you have sold me, I said, and stormed out of there and ran to my hut. I laid on my wooden bed and cried. I thought of what to do but couldn't find any solution to it. I thought of my mother and what she would have suggested if she was alive. I thought of Dike and what he would say or do, and I drifted off to sleep. I had a dream, and in that dream, I saw myself drowning and calling for help. My stepmother and Amara were standing close to the river, laughing. They refused to help me. My father was behind them, looking helpless and in tears, while Uzo, my stepbrother, came running. But before he could get to me, someone else pulled me out, and then I woke up. It felt so real, like I was really drowning. I stood up from my bed and came out of my hut. I met a stranger in our compound, teaching Amara some dance move. I stood and watched for a few minutes, then smiled and thought to myself how lame their moves were. I walked straight to the kitchen and fetched water from the pot to wash my face. I was very hungry and was thinking of what to eat when my stepmother came with food. It was my favorite dish, porridge yam with smoked fish, garnished with vegetable. My mouth became watery at the sight of the food. I had to swallow my saliva. Ulamma, my dear daughter, I know you are angry with me because of the decision your father made, but it's all for your own good though. And I also noticed that you haven't eaten since morning. That's why I prepared this specially for you. Take it and eat oh, one, so that your mind will calm down. She handed the food over to me and was smiling from ear to ear sheepishly. I know you will like it cause it's your favorite, and I took my time to prepare it for you. Oh, I mean for everybody, she stuttered. I held the food and imagined how delicious it would taste, but I was conscious because Dike had warned me beforehand not to eat whatever she gave me. Nne dalu, but I'm not hungry. In fact, this is not my favorite dish again, I said, and handed the food back to her and walked away. Ulamma, you will enjoy this food though. It's your favorite though, she persuaded, but I ignored her. I went back into my hut and brought out the dried abacha I had kept in my room for a very long time and started eating. Ulamma, why are you eating this dried abacha? Is there no food in the house for you to eat? Uzo asked, suddenly bringing me back to my thoughts. I didn't know when Uzo entered my house because I was lost in my thoughts. I wasn't conscious of my environment at that moment. Uzo, I don't know what to do again. I'm confused, I said with tears in my eyes. Father said I'll be leaving in the next 5 days, and I really don't want to go. Uzo, please help me, I pleaded, still crying. Uzo bowed his head and thought for a few seconds and came up with an idea. I have an idea, he said, and came closer. You have to run away, he whispered in my ear. What? Run away? To where? I asked with my eyes wide open. You know I don't have anywhere else to go. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. But be ready because it will be on the 4th night, he said, looking into my eyes to be sure I heard him. He left after making sure I was fine and came back with fruits he got from the farm and gave me some. I ate to my fill and later went out to trash the waste. I started having the hunch to go to the kitchen and it was getting stronger, so I seconded to it and immediately left for the kitchen. The moment I got there, I saw Uzo sitting down, holding the food his mother had given me earlier, and was about to eat when I screamed. He paused with the food halfway to his mouth. "Olam, what is it?" he asked. "Uzo, please don't eat that food." "Drop it down," I said and collected the food from him. "Hope you've not tasted it," I asked, looking worried. "I was about to before you stopped me," he replied, still confused. I thanked the gods and asked him to catch a rat or bring one of his chickens so I will show him something. He was confused and asked me why, but I told him that it's better if I showed him. He agreed and brought one of his chickens. We kept the food in front of the chicken and it ate a little from it. Within seconds, the chicken fell down and struggled before it died. Uzo watched in shock as the chicken struggled for its life before it died. He staggered and almost fell down, but I held him and explained to him how his mother had tried to force me to eat the food, but I refused. He was dumbfounded and asked me how I got to know. I couldn't tell him because Dike made me promise not to say anything to anyone. I just told him it was my intuition and it works for me. I made him promise not to say anything to his mother. It was difficult, but he did. We left the kitchen and went to his hut while I went to mine. I sat on my bed and imagined what would have happened to me if I had eaten the food. 3 days have passed. Uzo and I have made plans on how I will leave the house without anyone knowing. 2 days ago, I went to the stream where I usually meet with Dike, but he didn't show up. I thought maybe he forgot. I went back the next day because I was eager to see him and to tell him about the plans Uzo had to help me escape from home. Still, he didn't show up, and I became worried because I didn't know where to find him. Oh God of our land, help me through this. I don't know where Dike is or if something has happened to him, I lamented. Tomorrow night, Uzo will be taking me to where he had arranged for me to stay for the meantime. How do I cope? I have never been away from home, I sobbed. Ulamma, I heard my name, but couldn't tell if it was my stepbrother calling me or Amara. Ulamma, where is that evil child? I heard my stepmother cursing, and I rushed out to answer her. She was already close to my hut when I got to her. Take this money and go to the fourth market, close to the boundary, between our village and Amazi village. You will see an old woman selling native vegetable. Give her this money and tell her that I sent you. She knows what to do, she said, handing the money over to me. But that market is too far. It will be very late before I will get there and return. And moreover, it's dangerous for a maiden from our village to go close to that boundary. I lamented, stretching my hand in an attempt to return the money back to her. Will you shut up and start going? You better make sure you get there and do as instructed this time, or else I will deal with you mercilessly, she threatened, pointing a finger at me. Please tell me the name of the vegetable you want. I promise to get it for you. Even if it means going to the bush, I will do that. But please, don't ask me to go to the village boundary. Please. I knelt down, begging her, but all my plea fell on deaf ears. I looked back into my hut, and I went back into my hut and took my cutlass and the bit Dike gave me to keep. I took my cutlass because the road that leads to that market was usually lonely and bushy. Most people who visited the market are mostly men, and they usually go in groups. I came out of my hut crying, like I was never going to come back. Amara stood outside with 2 of her friends in front of her hut, laughing and clapping their hands. I turned to look at Uzo's hut to see if he would come to my aid, but he was not around to help me. I screamed for my father, to help me, but he was just there sitting under the tree and drinking his palm wine, not minding me. Oh gods of our land, I need you. I need you to bring me back safely. I prayed in silence and left the compound. On my way, I prayed to the gods to bring Uzo my way, or Dike, whom I had not seen for 3 days, because I really needed them at the moment. When I got to the road that led to the fourth market at the boundary between my village and Amazi village, I stood there, hoping I would see someone going in the same direction as me, but there was none. I proceeded and was scared to my teeth. Halfway into the journey, I heard my name, and the voice sounded like Uzo's. I kept quiet and listened if I would hear it again, but I didn't. Then I remembered I was alone in the bush. Out of fear, I started running and didn't see the big log of wood in front of me. I fell down after hitting my right foot, injuring myself. I sat down there frightened, and then I remembered the song my mother had taught me to sing whenever I was afraid and alone. I sang the song melodiously while sitting in the log of wood. It was already getting dark, and I had given up on coming out of there alive. Suddenly, I heard my name again, but this time it wasn't just from one person. I heard it again, and then I stood up to hide behind a tree. Suddenly, I saw Uzo and 2 of his friends with cutlasses coming in the direction that I did, looking worried. At first, I thought they were familiar spirits, disguised to deceive me into falling into their traps. Ulamma, I heard you singing. Where are you? Please say something, he said, almost crying. I was still skeptical about him, so I decided to ask him a question. If truly you are my brother, tell me the name of my friend and where we met. The name of your friend is Dike. You met him during the village dance competition a few weeks ago, he said confidently. Uzo, I shouted and ran to him crying. We hugged each other. His friends were happy, but also very alert because it was already dark. Uzo, we need to leave here now before the unwanted comes out. It's dangerous to be here for another minute, one of his friends said, and we left immediately. Instead of taking me home, they took me somewhere else. It was a small hut in an isolated area. What surprised me the most was when Dike came out of the hut. I ran to him quickly and stood in front of him. Where have you been? I've been to the river several times looking for you. I had a lot of things to tell you, I said anxiously. I've been busy, but I'm here now, he said and turned to Uzo. Bring the goat and do as we have planned. Uzo and his friends brought a goat and slaughtered it. They collected one of my wrapper and poured some of the goat's blood on it. What are you planning to do? I was curious to know what they had planned. Uzo will go home and inform your family that you have been killed by a wild animal. That way, your stepmother will leave you alone, he said while setting up the fire. Ulamma, I'm so sorry. My mother has caused you so much pain, but it ends today, he said. I held his hand and told him how much I appreciated him for always defending and protecting me, even though he was my younger brother. Later that night, I prepared sweet soup, pepper soup with the goat meat that was killed, and we ate to our fill while we sat around the fire. To be continued.